it I, Lord, the one who turned tail and ran? Why did you choose me, being one of the 12, that morning on the hill? You had been praying all night while I slept, as usual. Why didn't you choose my brother Bortis, who had kept watch all night? Why choose me, his younger twin? Why isn't my faith as strong as the others? The only obvious answer leaps from my trembling lips. I don't know. I don't know. As I step by a fallen tree, my sandal catches on one of its broken branches. I feel the strap break, and I'm falling, slowly, falling into oblivion. When I awake, I attempt to rise to see where I am, but a wave of nausea forces me back to my bed. Bed? I look at my surroundings the best I can, without lifting my head. I'm in a strange room, and yet it looks like hundreds of other rooms I have seen, with its usual clutter of jars and bags. A moment escapes me. I put a hand to my aching head, where I find a thick cloth wound around it. A figure darkens the door briefly, then turns around and calls to someone. He's awake. Where am I ask. North of Jerusalem. North of Ephraim. Samaria? He doesn't answer, but looks fearfully at his wife. I manage a chuckle and say, another good Samaritan. The tension seems broken, and they feebly try to join in my small attempt at levity. But they don't understand, for they don't know Jesus' story. I proceed to tell them every horrifying detail. After he has heard my story, the man tells about finding me unconscious. He understands that I must return to Jerusalem, even though I am weak and prone to dizziness. He takes me on his own donkey back to the border of Judea, and he waits there until he can no longer see me limping down the road to Jerusalem, carrying cheese and bread and a skein of water fresh from Jacob's well. I had never imagined that day we stopped with Jesus at Jacob's well that I would be helped by a man born nearby. I crest the ridge and see Jerusalem before me. I edge closer to the rock of cliffs to enjoy a much-needed rest under an almond tree. I sit down to drink and to eat from the lunch provided by the Good Samaritan. Because I am still weak, I decide to stretch out under the tree. One last blossom floats down from the tree and tickles my nose as it lands there. Brushing it off, I notice something tied to one of the tree's branches that hangs over the cliff. A rope? My curiosity overrides my tiredness, and I get up to look closer and to peer over the side. Finally, I can see that it is a man's body at the end of the rope, several days dead, for his body is glowed. His face is unrecognizable, but I have seen those expensive clothes before. 3 rings are clearly visible upon his swollen hands. I know those pieces of jewelry. Judas, I call to him, as if he could hear me. The soft leather sandals I had always admired cut into his blackened feet. I try to haul him up, but my strength gives out. My head begins to throb, and I feel tears coursing down my face as I take a knife from my belt and cut the rope. Clinging to the tree, I watch Judas' carcass bounce off the rocky cliff and fall headlong into the field below. I extract myself carefully from my perch and make my way down to Jerusalem's Damascus gate. The streets are full of both visitors and citizens. I grab one, a prosperous-looking man, and ask him what day it is. Today is Wednesday, he answers, and looks at me intently. Aren't you Thomas, disciple of Jesus? Yes, I admit, hungry for news. What can you tell me of him? It is then I recognize him. Joseph of Arimathea, a member of the council, but also I know a man influenced by Jesus' teachings. He draws me aside into a deserted street vendor's stall, and I learn the proceedings of the days I have been away. I then tell him about Judas and where I found him. I know the place, he assures me. There are others on the council who will help me see that he is a proper burial. I leave Joseph and head for the room we had secured for Passover week. I climb the stairs wearily when I reach my destination and hear cautious voices talking inside. My soft knock brings a halt to all sound. Slowly, one big brown eye looks through the crack of the open door. Someone calls out. Is it Thomas? The door opens wider to reveal another eye and Peter's welcome face. He laughs. Well, if it isn't, it's his twin. He pulls me in and gives me one of his heartfelt hugs. And they all laugh at Peter's joke as someone opens the door. How can you laugh? I chide him. Don't you know that I betrayed Jesus? I betrayed all of you by running away. They see my condition and push me down and sit on a low stool. He is not dead, says one of them. And then all of them begin to try to convince me. He is alive, Thomas. We have seen him. But I would not be convinced. No. You only try to make me feel better. But I know it is my fault. And I vow that I will believe him only when I can place my fingers on the nail marks in his hands and into his sword-pierced side. They lower my weakened body to a sleeping mat. My last words before I drift back to sleep are these. It is I, Lord.